My name is Bharat Vasudevan. I work at Quest Software, and I head product for the Irwin business, among other things. Really want to talk today about why data marketplaces are interesting, and why they're something that you guys should take a look at a little bit closer than you normally would have. But before we start, I do want to just set the stage with a couple of questions. The first is, and this is a little bit rhetorical, but it's something that I run into a lot. There's some things that the senior leadership team says, this is what we want to go do. And then by the time it gets down to the people who actually have to go do it, it becomes more of an impossible task to go achieve. Does this sound like anything you've ever heard or stuff that you're dealing with? And look, it happens everywhere, but this is a very common thing. And really, my question is, let's talk about a tool that can help bridge that gap. And that's really what we're going to get into with marketplaces. Now, here's what I hear. I hear this all the time. Your CDO says, hey, look, everything has to be in the marketplace. If it's not in the marketplace, it doesn't count. And these are progressive CDOs that are understanding the value of it. What I see is I see two groups of CDOs. There's a CDO that's governed by compliance, and those CDOs are very much into catalogs. Because data catalogs help you find all your PII, they help you find your classified data, and it's a great thing that you can take to auditors and say, look, I have proof, here's my stuff, it's together, leave me alone. Then you've got another camp of CDOs that view data as a monetizable asset. How can I get this data out to everybody and make more out of it? So data is an asset versus data is liability. It sounds a little bit, nobody wants to say, I think data is a liability, but you can tell in actions. Now, CDOs, it all has to be in marketplace or it's no good. The reality is, your analyst team is inundated with requests. There's all their regular reports they have to do, then there's their ad hoc requests, then there's the executive requests that need to be done 10 minutes ago. And this is what your team is dealing with. Both of these were Gen AI, so there's no real people in here. I was pretty excited about prompt engineering and getting pictures that I liked. So here's the question. Most organizations that I talk to, they're here, where people are taking data that's readily available to them. And by people, I mean a small team of analysts. And they are the report monkeys. And they have to create things that basically go to a senior leadership team, and that senior leadership team makes decisions and pushes decisions down to the rest of the organization to go execute. Now, you all are professionals. You've been doing this for quite some time. How much do you like doing work with no context? This is doing work with no context. I wish I had the answer. I wish I knew why we were doing this, but I'm not, because someone else has the information, someone else has decided what needs to happen, and this is what we have to go do. This is where we think we can get you. To a place where you're gathering all of the available data from multiple sources. This is the really important part. And everything you've been hearing the last couple of days, data is the foundation of AI, garbage in, garbage out. This is the truth, right? You need to know that data is trusted and available. And I'll just tell you a funny story, which isn't so funny for me, but I did a whole bunch of analysis on a product set. It was based on revenue and projections, and it was a little bit of a pro forma piece. And it took a long time to go do. I spent at least a week on it, and dedicated thinking time. So there was a lot of analysis. I went to go present it. My finance person said, that first number isn't the same number I have. Then everything from that point in time was trash. And that was a couple of years ago. And since then, we've been on our own journey to try to get the data right, so it's trusted. Now, when we do the same analysis, she and I are looking at the exact same data, same numbers to the left and right of the decimal point. So once that happens, everyone's in agreement that this is good data, or we're both wrong. But we're going to err on the side of we both have good data that we're working on. And now what happens is you have more smart people across the business that are able to make decisions. You now have the context behind the work that you're going to go do. So how? Remember, lots of data, make sure it's trusted. So look, a marketplace can solve for this, but not this marketplace. When we talk about marketplaces, and I'm not talking about things like Azure Marketplace or AWS Marketplace, there's no monetary transaction happening here. What's happening is I've got a centralized place where data sets can be stored, data products can be stored, business glossary terms can be stored. Everything is available for you as a consumer to go in and understand what's available. Now, again, not transactable. This isn't about money. This isn't about, any of the big cloud marketplaces. This is a clearinghouse. Now, what does this look like? This is something that's going to facilitate decisions. Everybody knows they're speaking from the same sheet of music. So when we say, what does a data marketplace look like? This is what we're talking about. In this case, I've chosen data products. That's the object that I'm looking at. Here's all the things in the organization, right? I've got stuff that includes third-party data. I've got some CRM models. But now what I've also got is I've got a consumer rating. So think of your Amazon reviews. Do you like it? Give it a 5-star rating. Do you like this data set? I'm going to give it a 5-star rating. Then we've got this gold and silver. You might ask, what's that? Well, that's going to be a composite score that we've built across data quality, critical data elements, the amount of times it's used, as well as the user rating. That's a composite that's going to give you a score that says, I think this is a gold data set. The organization believes this is the best data. Because if you were to go in and just look for customer, that's going to be like 300 data sets. How do you know which one to choose? How do you know which one to go put your stock in so you don't end up in that situation that I was in earlier where we're speaking from two different sets of data? So why does your CDO care, right? Now we're talking about an interface that everybody can use. The producers, the people that are building the data sets really like it because now their work can get evangelized. The people that are consuming it can get to it pretty easily, right? Because now it's not hard for them to get. And really, now it's paying off that contract. If it's not in the marketplace, it doesn't exist, right? There's a reason I bought this watch. It's because I play tennis. And if I don't get my steps counted in tennis, they don't count. So now I can get it. That's it. It's the contract I've made with myself. I close my rings. I get my steps. It's all good. Here, if the data's in the marketplace, it's good. Now, let's look at what this easy-to-use interface is. And this is ours. This is our data intelligence suite. You can go check it out downstairs. You log in. It knows who you are. You can come in and say, hey, look, this is what I can go look at. And again, if you're a consumer of data, this is super easy. I'm just going to search for consumer or customer. Now, for all of the people who are producing the data, now this is the show your math part of the exercise, because I'm not just pushing up data sets that I don't know about. Now I can look at all of the contributing sources of that data, its lineage, all the way back to where it starts with integrated data quality scores, all the way down to here. And now on the other side, I can see which business terms it impacts, where all it's used. This is the show your math piece. So if you're on the skeptical side, like, data marketplaces are just BS. It's a marketing thing. It's just a presentation layer. It is a presentation layer, but it's backed by the catalog and the lineage and the integrated data quality behind it. So now when we talk about can you trust the data, if you're a consumer, you don't care. You're showing up and you want gold, silver, you want something spoon-fed to you. I am not an Android user. I am an Apple user. I'm very happy for someone to just tell me how it works. But there are Android users out there that want to know all the widgets and be able to tune everything. Well, this is how it is. And if you look at what we're doing here, we're enforcing quality. There's now governance for everything that we talked about. Now you know what comprises it. Where does it come from? How is it used? What does it adhere to? And now let's keep going with this, right? Remember I said the consumer doesn't care. The consumer just wants the answer. Now let's look at Customer Care Plus. Now I can go and look at different data sets, and now I can compare which one I want. This is the ability that we give you in the platform to now bridge that gap between what a CDO tells you need to go do, what producers of data think is, I'm just doing my work, but now all the context sits behind it. And when we talk about that contract between the producers and the consumers, let's look at what we can do with this. If I go click on that same Customer Care Plus, now it's a data product, right? What am I looking at here? I see its score, I see its rating, but now I can see who all touches it, right? Who's the data steward? Who's the data owner? I can see which business terms, which AI models are associated with it. And the way this thing works is I can click on any of these things and then go back and look at its lineage. Go and look at all the data that fuels it. So again, if you want to get very technical, you can. You can start double-clicking, triple-clicking, going and finding the root of everything, looking at its data quality. You have the ability to do that. Or, I know who I need to go talk to get access to this because they're the data stewards. It's the consumer's point of view. I know this is good because it's got a gold score. I don't care how it got there. But I know that if that one's silver, that one's gold, I'm going to go use the gold one. And when we talk about this, right, we're talking about the benefits. There's benefits for your analytics guys, but think about this now. Remember I talked at the beginning about the CDO that's risk averse, that is servicing security and compliance? Well, you're still doing that here. But now you've also monetized the rest of it. You've simplified the path for everyone to go use this. Your data scientists now have an easy place to go grab data sets for them to build on top of. Again, if you think of it truly as a marketplace with different roles for consumers, different roles for producers, we're now creating a place where everybody has, and it sounds cliche, but it is a one-stop shop to go get what you need to go get your work done with the context that you need. We've got, well, Kevin, if you guys don't know Kevin, he's a phenomenal person. Tokyo Marine here. They've leaned into this. And they've leaned into marketplaces because if we want to talk about a CDO who's progressive, leaning in, looking forward, and trying to find ways to monetize the maximum value of data as an asset, they see marketplace as a way to do it. In fact, one of the other features that we talk about with Kevin as well, if you keep scrolling down, you can actually assign a value, a cost value to this data product. You can do it to a data set. So now think about if you need to fast forward, you're a P&L now. What is the value of that data you're producing? What if you needed to go sell that data to your downstream? Think upstream. I'm not talking about selling personal data outside the company, but you're a central housing unit. You have a bunch of subsidiaries that subscribe to your data. You can now assign a value to it and cross-charge. You can assign value. You can produce ROI results for a lot of the data that you're using. Now, what do you think today's biggest barrier for success for organizations doing this? You guys can throw some stuff out. Well, sometimes there's no money. Sometimes there's no champion. Sometimes it's not really a priority yet. What we found is that when we have the conversation, everyone's just too busy in what they're doing. It's difficult sometimes to take one step back, look at the possibilities of what you could be doing, because we're still mired in the day-to-day activity of what we are doing. If you're that business analyst that's being bombarded with 100 things to do, with the bandwidth to do 12, It's really, really hard to be able to look at this. We work with some organizations that don't have a CDO in place, that they're trying to build everything from the ground up. The solution to this is a combination of people, process, and tools. If you don't have the people in place, you don't have the organization wherewithal to get the process down, everything turns into a tools problem. And when everything turns into a tools problem, it's really hard to take a step back and look at the forest from the trees. And that's what we tend to find when, it's like, why aren't we doing this? It's below the line for this year. We might get to it next year. And then as the mindset shifts from how can my CDO organization move from being defensive to being offensive, or playing offense, not being offensive, but this is where we can see this start to move. Now, here's the deal. This is where we started. This is where we can get. Right now, internal, external, synthetic data sets. And again, back to the show your math page, you'll see all of it. You'll see where it comes from, how it's used, where it's transformed, what rules it adheres to. Because now I've got lineage, I've got my scoring, and now I've put it in this marketplace. I don't use the word democratization very often because that totally does sound like a marketing word. But really what we're doing here is we're getting that trusted data in the hands of more people that can make informed decisions. And I don't believe in any of your organizations we think that's a bad idea. More smart people making decisions with context helps move the business forward. That's what everyone aspires to do. It's much easier said than done. This is a journey. And look, we've also got a framework to help you get to that point. Now, I spent most of today just talking about this concept of, the shop and the score and the presentation layer of what this framework can do for you. But really, organizations that are switched on, that kind of figured a lot of this out, they've had data modeling practices for a very long time. And a lot of your organizations probably do as well. But then when we get into these pieces of cataloging it, a lot of organizations that are playing defense stop at catalog because now I'm good with the auditors. As you keep going up this path, now you're figuring out ways to do more with it, get it in the hands of more people. And we land up here in the concept of a marketplace. Again, not like AWS Marketplace, not like Azure Marketplace, but a marketplace where you can go push data that the organization can believe is good. Because that idea of trusted data, it's really the underpinnings, again, of everything we've heard these last couple of days. Data is the foundation of AI models. Bad data, bad AI models. Trusted data, good AI models. That's really how we've envisioned this process. When we get to the point where marketplaces are more widely accepted, you're going to be in a better position organizationally to have more people make informed decisions with the context, right? They know what's up. And a lot of times, by the way, that diagram, if you click the QR code over there, it's going to take you to an ebook that talks through all of that. But when we talk about where do you start, it's really, one, it takes a village. So there needs to be collaboration. A lot of teams need to work together. Start small. Start with a small project and go demonstrate that there's success. Because once you do that, then you're going to create more champions within the organization. When you create more people in the organization, see the value of this and get behind it, that's usually the snowball effect that pushes projects from below the line to above the line. What never works is boiling the ocean and trying to get some absurd ROI number that no one's ever going to be able to service, and then you get a year into implementation and you haven't produced any value yet. That's when programs get cut. So the idea here is really start small. We've got a path to help you get there. We've got a crew downstairs that can certainly aid in a lot of this. If this is a need that you guys might have, or you want to better see some of this in action or the value of a marketplace, we're happy to help you. We have a few minutes left over for questions if you have any. I've got a bunch of my crew in here that can help you out. With that, though, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know probably wrapping up a little bit early, but it's a good thing for all of us. So now we can go queue up for the next session. But if you do have any questions, I'll be here. I'll be down at our stand the rest of the afternoon. But I appreciate your time.